So how did your 2022 start? Because my 2022 started with a terrible cold that had me out for like a week. Then cough, very annoying cough. I can't hear from this year at the moment, not very well. So this is just wonderful, isn't it? Hi, welcome back and welcome to another video. I'm Fran, this is frannook in the pages, and today we have a little bit of a different setting going on, and I'm kind of liking it, by the way. I wanted to go through my reading stats of 2021, the stats of my 2021 reading year. Therefore, I am sitting at a table, which you can't see, but I'm sitting at a table. I have my laptop in front of me with all the graphs and numbers and all that geeky, lovely stuff. And from that, I will move on to my 2022 reading goals. I have a few, and I want to apologize for the lateness of all the videos that will be coming in the next few days, weeks, whatever, because as I've mentioned in the beginning, I wasn't well. I did my booster at the end of 2021 and that started a bunch of things, and I still haven't recovered fully. So yeah, let's look at some reading stats. Let's begin with a very general overview, and that is that in 2021 I read a total of 72 books. And did I do that very childish and competitive thing of reading a bunch of very short books on December 31st just so that I could meet the reading goal challenge on Goodreads? Yes, I did, and that's fine. That's something that I wanted to do. I did it. I don't care. I read a bunch of picture books, which is very nice to do. It's always a very nice thing to do, reading picture books. They're so cute and lovely. So I did that. I read 72 books. I was okay with that number because in 2022 I did my master's degree, so I was following classes online, and I also had a remote part-time job. And then for the second part of the year I switched to 2 part-time jobs, so you could argue that I had my hands full just a little bit, and I was starting many new things, so that took some time to get adjusted to the rhythms and habits and all of that. It was just a little bit all over the place. And also in the first half of 2021 I was suffering from the worst insomnia ever. I couldn't sleep and I had a hard time focusing, so when I wasn't sleeping I wasn't really reading, I was just watching things and getting frustrated because I wasn't sleeping. So long story short, I wasn't reading that much. So the fact that I was still able to read 72 books to me is a big accomplishment. However, since hopefully I won't have the same problems in 2022, I set my Goodreads reading challenge for 2022 on 102 books. And again, I could have done 100 books, but since it's 2022, I'm childish and stupid and I want it to be 102 books. It is a pretty big number. I don't know if I've ever read 100 books in a year, maybe when I was still going to high school or something, but I do think that I can make better use of my time, especially considering how many audiobooks I listen to, and that really helps to, you know, get more reading done throughout the day. Let me be clear, I don't do it for the numbers. It's not because I want to read, I don't know, 200, 300 books in a year. I couldn't care less. I just want to read more books because I want to read more stories, and because there are so many books out there that I really want to read, that I really want to get to. I want to push myself a little bit to read more so that I can get to those stories that I want to get to. It's just a way to push myself to consciously spend more time on reading instead of getting lost in those lulls of time where you just stare at your phone, you scroll, you know, online through social media and stuff, but you're not really there with your mind. You're literally just wasting time that you could use in a much better way. It's not for the number itself, it's more the intention behind it. And now let's go more in depth through some stats. And again, these are not numbers that are important per se. This is just a way to reflect more consciously on my reading and see what I like about it, what I don't like, what I want to change for the next year, and be more, again, conscious about what I'm reading and where I want my reading to go, if it makes any sense. First, some numbers regarding the authors more than the books themselves. The 76% of books that I read in 2021 was written by white authors, whereas the 24% was written by authors of color and only 10% by black authors. I understand this number because I am Italian, so I will read some Italian books, and the majority of Italians are white, so it makes sense. But I also read a lot of American and British books, so I want to increase the number of books that I read written by BIPOC authors. That is something that I do want to try and change a little bit. Regarding the gender, 76% of the books that I read, again 76, this number keeps coming back, was written by female authors, 20% by male authors, and 4% by non-binary authors. And these are numbers that I quite like. I like that the majority of books that I'm reading are written by female authors. I do want to try and increase the percentage of books read by non-binary authors, and I will work on that, but I am quite happy with these numbers, and I want to keep going in the same direction. Format. When it comes to the way in which I read, I have to say that I'm not surprised at all by these numbers, because I was aware that the higher number would have been audiobooks. In fact, in 2021, I listened to 32 audiobooks, I read 22 ebooks, and I also read 18 physical books. I love these numbers, I really do, because I love listening to audiobooks. I love to consume audiobooks. I love listening to great voices narrating stories in the most incredible way and really make you feel everything that the story has to give you. I love that so much. I want to keep listening to a lot of audiobooks. I have a lot of audiobooks that I want to listen to in 2022, and I'm really looking forward to that. However, and this is something that I will talk about in an upcoming video, so stay tuned for that. It's a whole discussion about ebooks versus physical books and all of that. But anyways, I do want to read more physical books, not new physical books, but these books behind me. I have so many, and these books behind me have been with me for some time, as in this house, and they haven't really been touched or read or considered, for that matter. And since we are going to move soon, I want to try and read some of them so that I can send them home. Therefore, in 2022, at least for the first half of 2022, I do want to try and read more physical books that I own. There are so many new releases that are coming out in 2022, and I will read those new releases in ebook format, or in case I like the narrator, I will listen to them as audiobooks. But apart from the new releases, the other books that I read, or at least some of the other books that I read, I would like them to be physical books that I own and that are right behind me. That is definitely another goal for 2022, to read more physical books that I own so that I can ship them home. And now let's talk about the genre. First of all, I have a division between fiction and non-fiction. No surprise there. 78% of the books that I read was fiction, 22% was non-fiction. I'm okay with that, because I do realize that the majority of the books that I want to read are fictional stories, and I think that when it comes to ratio and percentages, I will always have a higher percentage of fiction books compared to the non-fiction. However, I do enjoy reading non-fiction. I do enjoy listening to memoirs. I love listening to memoirs, and I want to try and read more narrative non-fiction. So that is definitely a goal for 2022, to read more non-fiction, particularly narrative non-fiction. But I'm also aware that that is gonna happen because I read more books, and not just because I read more nonfiction, because the ratio 70-30, something like that, I think that's going to be a constant in the future, so I'm okay with that. Then I have the target audience, which means a division between adult books, YA books, and books for kids or children, middle grade, all of them put together. And again, I'm okay with these numbers. I read 29 books for adults, 29 books for young adults, and 14 books for kids, children, whatever. And I'm really okay with that. I like that I'm reading more books for adults. I do love to read YA. I'm much more selective when it comes to young adult books and also kids books, because for work reasons I do read a lot of books for children or picture books, and I love that, so I'm absolutely fine with that number. And now the genre breakdown, and this is very interesting because there are some numbers that I'm not quite happy with and that I want to try to change in 2022. 2021 I read 18 graphic novels, and I like that because I love reading graphic novels. Graphic novels also including picture books for kids. I read 14 contemporary books. I read 9 essays, and for essays I mean graphic novel collections of comics and things like that, or non-fiction books that aren't memoirs. I read 7 mystery books, 7 romance books, 6 memoirs, 5 sci-fi books, and I read 4 fantasy books. And that is the number that I hate, because I love fantasy. I love reading fantasy books, and this fantasy is not just epic fantasy, it's also including paranormal, urban fantasy, and all of that. So I'm really not okay with this sci-fi. I read more sci-fi books than fantasy books. Who am I? What did I do to myself? I'm really not okay with that number. I think that I read more mystery books than I did in the past, which is okay because I love reading mystery. I'm really starting to love reading mysteries. In particular, I love listening to mystery books. I feel like the narrators are always impeccable when it comes to mystery books. They're chosen so well, and I'm really loving that. I like that I'm reading more romance because I'm a softie and I'm very romantic and I want to have my dose of romance. But honestly, that fantasy, those 4 fantasy books, it's really annoying me. In 2022, I would like to read more fantasy books. That is definitely something that needs to happen. And I would also love to read, as I've said, more narrative nonfiction. I will keep reading contemporary and romance, so that is not really bothering me. I know that I will be reading more mysteries because, as I've said, I'm really enjoying listening to mystery books, but that fantasy number, gosh, it's really annoying me, as you can probably see. I'm leaving the most important thing for last, so what comes next is the rating. The rating went pretty well. I have to say, I didn't think I rated so many books 5 stars, but I did. And I mean, you can ask my girlfriend, I'm really strict when it comes to rating books. Like, I give 5-star books to books that I loved, okay? Because even if they have like just a couple of flaws, it's probably going to be a 4 stars, 4.5, whatever. But no, I have 28 books in 2021 which I gave 5 stars to. 28 books, that is a lot. That is almost 40% of the books that I read in 2021 were 5 stars. What? That is a lot. That is really a lot. I would never have said that, but the numbers are there. They're not lying, so okay. I gave 4 stars to 17 books. I gave 3 stars to 17 books, and I gave 2 stars to 10 books, which sounds more like me. In percentages, that would be almost 40% 5 stars, 24% 4 stars and 3 stars, and 14% more or less 2 stars. I honestly didn't think those were going to be the numbers, but okay, that's good with me. The thing that I'm the most upset about, and honestly I'm really upset about this more than the 4 fantasy books that I read in 2021, is the LGBT reading stats. Even removing the picture books, I don't count the picture books in the LGBT reading stats because what would be the point? Even removing those, 45% of the books that I read in 2021 was LGBT themed, 55% wasn't. In numbers, I read 35 not LGBT books and 29 LGBT plus books. The only redeeming thing was that out of those 29 books, 18 had sapphic love stories. And I'm okay with that. But the fact that I only read 29 LGBT books, which means 45% of the books that I read in 2021 were LGBT, that does not sit well with me at all. That is not okay. It's not a percentage that I like. It's a percentage that I never want to see again in my life anymore. I want the majority of the books that I read to be LGBT+. That is something that I expect from me. It's something that I want. It's something that I cannot forgive myself for. And that is exactly what I'm talking about when I say that I need these reading stats in order to more consciously guide me through the next reading year, through my 2022 reading year, because these stats, they're not okay with me at all. So that is not something that is going to happen again in 2022. And that's on that, honestly. So 2022 reading goals. First and foremost, as I've said, I want to read 102 books in 2022. That's the goal that I set for my Goodreads reading challenge. I want to read more physical books that I own, and that is a very important note right there, because I don't want to buy more physical books and then read them. I want to read the physical books that I own, and that's a very, very important thing. I love the fact that the majority of the books that I read in 2021 was audiobooks, so I wouldn't mind if that were to happen again in 2022. I'd be totally okay with that. Genre-wise, I want to try and read more fantasy books, and I also want to try and read more narrative non-fiction books. I absolutely need the majority of books that I read to be LGBT+, and I want that LGBT+ to be as diverse as possible, but I also wouldn't mind if the majority was sapphic, because that's what I identify as, and I want to see that representation, of course. So I will definitely read more LGBT+ books in 2022. That's a given for me. That's like required. I don't want to set other reading goals because I don't want to feel too stifled in my reading. I feel like the goals that I have for now are more than enough, and hopefully I'll be able to at least follow those. But I do have some goals booktube wise. I do want to try and be more constant on this channel. I don't want to feel burnout from Vlogmas and then go away for a few months. I don't want that to happen. I want to be constant on this channel. I cannot promise 2 videos a week because I know me. But I also would like to have at least 1 video maybe per week. If I'm able to do that throughout the year, I would be so proud of myself and so happy with myself. So hopefully I'm able to do that. I will do monthly wrap-ups, but I would also like to have more individual reviews, particularly when it comes to new releases or other books that I think deserve more attention that haven't been talked about much, at least here on booktube, at least on the channels that I follow. And another thing that I would love to try and do this year, booktube wise, is to have a series of videos on my channel where I talk about Italian books that haven't been translated and that I would like for them to be translated into other languages, particularly English, because they're that good. And I would love for more readers to read them and approach them and just get lost in those stories. I do realize that that's something a little bit more niche. Not everyone will be interested in those videos, and I do understand that because I'll be talking about books that the majority of you, I'm guessing, won't be able to read yet because they haven't been translated. But I do think that it might also be something interesting and different, something that I can bring to booktube that not many other booktubers can, and I would love to contribute in that way, I guess, to bring something a little bit more unique that I can have on my channel. I still don't know how to call those videos. If you have any ideas, please let me know in the comments down below, but it is something that I want to do, and I hope that you will support me and watch those videos and enjoy them either way. But yes, this was it for this video. I thank you so much for watching it. Please let me know what you think about my 2021 reading year, how yours went. If you had reading stats, let me know in the comments. If you want to share them with me, I would love to talk to you about it in the comments. I will have my best books of 2021 video coming up pretty soon. Don't worry about that, it's coming. I still have to film it. I'm dreading it because it's going to be so long, but you know, it's one of those videos that you gotta have and that everyone loves watching, me included. So I have to have it, I have to do it, and I cannot wait. I'm dreading it, but I cannot wait. But this is it. So again, thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. You can like and share this video. You can befriend me on Goodreads and Storygraph, and you will find all the links to my social media places in the description down below. I have a coffee account, which is a digital tipping service. Happy 22! I will see you soon in another video, but until then, have a good one, take care, and keep reading. Warm hugs! Bye!